Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I'm the head coach at Grace Financial Coaching. And I am super excited to welcome my colleague, Kacy Smith, this morning. Kacy is a renowned financial coach in our world. She's also a cash flow management expert, certified YNAB coach, and a profit first professional. Kacy's mission is to help motivated individuals overcome their financial challenges in personal finance and also in business finance. For the last 4.5 years, she's played an instrumental part in serving hundreds of clients with their money, guiding them to simplify their finances, basically so they can have more confidence to manage their own money or business more effectively and with less stress. Isn't that why we're all here, Kacy? Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about specifically your coaching practice and what's changed for you in the last 4.5 years that you have just skyrocketed in your business.
Well, I think it came from my own personal story. So my story started when my husband and I realized that we were about $70,000 in debt. And the sad part of that is that we had been carrying around that debt for almost 30 years. And, we were led to believe, and this is how society, teaches us, that it's okay to have debt. It's okay to have, car payments and all of those things. And so we believed it. And so that's how we lived. Nonetheless, it's what's got me into some of the dumbest things I've ever done with money, obviously. But we finally sought some help and we got on a plan. And we were able to pay off our debt in about 18 months, which is record unheard of for most people. And we make a medium income. So once we started doing that, everyone was like, my gosh, what are you guys doing? You're killing it. Like, I want to know more. Can you tell us what you're doing? And so it started small, something just a hobby, like I'm going to help friends and family. And then the next thing you know, it's like, what if I could reach more people? What if I could enlarge my circle or my territory and really help those people that have no hope and feel like I was and feel desperate and afraid to reach out. And so that's what led me to become a coach. And so I've been coaching ever since. And I've helped hundreds of families and individuals and businesses to learn how to manage their money better on a day-to-day basis. But not only that, but set them up for success for their future. And that's where my passion lies. So I would say, if nothing else, learn from me.
What did you guys do in that 18-month period to get rid of that debt?
We did a lot of things. So we sold everything we could except the dog and cat. And we took overtime as much as we could. I picked up extra hobbies, dog sit, whatever you want to, whatever would bring in some income. The other thing we did is we cut back on eating out. We checked our groceries. We meal prepped. We did like small things. Like it wasn't some big gigantic thing we did right away. It literally was just some small action steps that we took little by little. And the more that we started seeing the debt go down, the more motivated we got. And so then it turned into, I can sell more than you, my husband. And so we got into this kind of like challenge, like, well, this is what I'm selling today. And every time the Offer Up app would go off, the little chime noise about the cha-ching noise, I'd be like, is that my phone or your phone? Because we were just selling stuff right and left. So we were dedicated to the process. We were motivated. It's not easy to stay motivated. But like I said, we had a plan and we knew that if we were going to leave a legacy for our kids, that this had to be done now. So that's where we went.
What was the thing that you sold that you do not miss at all, or the thing that you sold that you're like, I wish I held on to that?
Gosh, really it's not anything, because what started this whole process was me minimizing my household and finding things around the house that I wasn't even using. But what really struck me the most is when I was doing this was that I was looking around at all these things I had accumulated that I thought at the time that I needed, I loved, I wanted, I had to have. and realizing that we had used our hard-earned money to buy all this stuff. And that's when I realized that we were buying things for, reasons that did not line up with what we really valued. And that was an eye opener for us. So it was really just looking around and seeing how we had misused our funds and our income, and bought all these things we thought were going to bring happiness that just didn't.
Yeah. Now I'm blanking on the name of the group. Is it the Minimalists? I remember hearing about them years and years ago. Oh gosh, before I even met you. And now I feel like they are, synonymous with our type of business. I mean, now I feel like everybody knows who they are, but 7, 8 years ago, before Marie Kondo, or maybe right at the same time, I can't remember when she came around, but that the encouragement that group makes of people to pare down their lifestyle and get rid of the clutter. Is that what motivated you at first?
Well, funny story. So I had heard of the Minimalist before, and I had heard they were coming to San Diego. So I purchased tickets and didn't tell my husband. I was already on board for minimizing as much as I could. Not that I would say that I was going to become a minimalist, but that their message was very spot on, and about what really truly makes a person happy. And so I bought tickets and I didn't tell them where we were going. It was downtown San Diego. You had to park, I don't know, a mile away. And my husband's like, this is kind of sketchy. Where are we going? I'm like, trust me, you're going to be glad that we went. And we ended up going and hearing their story live, and hearing what they had to say. And the minute that we walked out the door, my husband's like, that's it. We're selling everything. I'm on board. And that is kind of what catapulted us into the path that we went.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny. Because that was the first thing I started thinking of as you started talking. I was like, I wonder if she's heard of the Minimalists before. So go back to, you said something earlier when you were talking about your little offer up challenge that you guys had between yourselves. You said it's not easy to stay motivated. Besides that challenge, how did you guys stay motivated?
I think it was seeing the debt go down. So I had this cheesy debt-free chart on my refrigerator. And you may have seen them around. And basically, you just color in each line after you pay off a certain amount of debt. And so I had one for our debt. And literally, I couldn't wait to color in the next line. Like, I just wanted to see those lines grow and grow and grow. And not only that, but my husband works very hard, and he's not a major player in our finances, except for bringing in income and going out and slaying the bear, I would say, and then coming home and saying, here, honey, here's the bear. And so I wanted to let him know that I was being a good steward of what he was bringing home, and that each line represented a certain amount of money, and that as he would walk by the fridge, he would see, oh my gosh, you've colored in 2 more lines. So that means that we are really making progress. So the more that we saw that, the more we couldn't wait to get rid of the debt.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, you guys have come to the other side of it, but I'm sure you made some mistakes before that. So Kacy, what is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money?
So being a homeowner for probably the last 30 years, we had refinanced our home for at least 5 times during that time. And each time that we refinanced, except for this last time, we refinanced for 30 years. So not only were we restarting over every single time, but it costs money to refinance. And so all of that would be rolled in. So I would say, for what we bought the house, we owe almost, not quite as much as we paid for the house back in 1997. So and it's hard to say that because, at this point in our life, our house should be paid for. And it's not. So I would say that is probably the most shameful thing I feel like that we have done over time. That created, I would say this dark cloud over us, because a mortgage is a big purchase, and a mortgage is a big expense. And so every month you have to make that mortgage payment, which was every month a reminder of the mistakes that we made along the way.
What prompted the first refinance? Do you remember?
I'm not sure. I think it was the first one. I went back, try to think on this. I think the first one is a matter of the interest rates lowered just a bit. Now, back then, the interest rates were anywhere from 6 to 8%. And that was the norm back then. So,
Oh, yeah.
We didn't think much of it. So if it dropped down 1% or 1.5%, we thought that was great. And so we thought it would be great to bring in more cash flow, ease up our payment a little bit. And I mean, we would only be like 3 years in, maybe 3 or 4 years in. If you do the math, that was about every 6 years that we financed. So it seemed often enough, but we didn't feel it. Like every time that we refinanced, it was like, okay, we have a little bit more cushion. But all it did was create more spending, honestly.
Right, because now you have a greater margin in your budget. Oh, great, we've brought the mortgage payment down by $200, $300, $400. Where was that $200, $300, $400 going? Where do you think it was going?
Probably buying cars. I mean, we were typical 2-car family with 2, car payments. Like I said, society leads you to believe that it's okay to be in debt and, to have things. It's the American dream. But the bottom line is that we were living paycheck to paycheck, and there was no way you could even find $200 over time. Now, maybe in the beginning we felt a little extra cushion there, but then again, it gave us permission to feel like we could spend more, go out more, do things with the kids more, whatever. So it gave us that false sense of security.
Right. What was different about this last time? Because you said the other times were 30 years, but not this last time.
I think that was right before we got out of debt. It was a couple of years before that. And the kids were, migrating out of the house, and we had started, paying off some debt. We still, like I said, had a ways to go. But I think it was like knowing that, another 30 years, we're going to be 80 years old by the time we pay off this house. And that just kind of felt sickening to me. And so it was at that time with his income, I was still working a bit, that we felt like we could manage a 15-year mortgage. And so we were able to be able to put that into place with some of the knowledge that I learned over the years that I wish I had known after, several times of refinancing. You'd think I would have got it right some point in there. But I feel like we got it right this last time. And, now we're looking at maybe being, the house being paid off in 4 years. So.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you guys started your debt-free process later in your kids' life. How do you think that impacted them?
Oh, well, first of all, my daughter decided she wanted to become a financial coach because she was seeing all of the good things that we were doing, not only helping other couples. I think my husband and I really started speaking into couples' lives as a couple first before I started individually coaching. And we were mentoring, young couples like, hey, don't do what we did, don't do this, don't do that, and really get them to understand the reasons behind that. And then my son started watching us pretty much. You think your kids aren't watching, they are watching, and even your adult children are watching. And, the more that he saw us paying off debt, we actually did our debt-free scream on the Dave Ramsey show. And after that, it was probably not long that him and his wife sat down with student loans and realized, oh my gosh, we're paying so much in interest. And they ended up paying off all their student loans.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, no, it is. The more I do this, the more conversations I have, the more I hear your kids, no matter what age they are watching, and they're absorbing. And, you hear the typical cliche of, when you have a toddler and you curse in front of them, and then all of a sudden they start cursing every other word. They're absorbing. Like, where did you learn that from? They're absorbing even as adults. Like you said, they're out of the house, they're married, but they're still watching, they're still absorbing. They're probably going to be a sponge until you're gone. And even then they'll look back at what you did while you were still walking this earth. So no, I think even as it doesn't matter how old we are, we can still make an impact on our kids in a positive and a negative way.
Right.
So Kacy, what would you guys have done differently if you could go back to that first? Let's go back to the first time that we were about to refinance. Do you think you would have done anything differently?
Well, back then we didn't have the information available that we have today. So there wasn't really much internet. There wasn't a lot of, information to give you to tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So you were pretty much just at the mercy of whatever you were told. And so I didn't have anything to go by to be able to say, hey, this is not a good idea. This is a good idea. All in our mind is the lender is saying, hey, we're going to increase your cash flow and your payment's going to be less and it's going to be easier on the family. So all the buzzwords that you want to hear that you're like, oh, this sounds wonderful. This is exactly what we need. I would say it wasn't until about the third time that we refinanced, and I remember it very vividly. We were at the point where we literally, this was the first time in our marriage that we were not going to be able to pay our mortgage. And the only alternative was, let's see if we can refinance. Let's see if we can't, sometimes when you refinance, you get that extra month where you don't have to pay a house payment. And to me, that was the answer to help us get caught up. Like, let's just breathe. Let's get our head above water a little bit. And I just remember so vividly that when we contacted the lender and the lender is like, yeah, I think we can make this happen, but I'm not sure your credit, this, that, and the other. We had been late on a couple of things, and I have no recollection of what it was, because I felt like I had been really good with our finances and made payments on time. I was a very big stickler on that. And so it didn't make any sense to me. But I remember being in my prayer room that day, all day long, just asking for God's mercy on us to allow this, mortgage thing to go through. And it wasn't until the 11th hour, literally the day before we were supposed to make our house payment, that we were approved. And things got underway. And it humbled us tremendously. And I, at that point, felt like I failed. I failed my husband. I have failed our finances. I have failed our kids. Like, it brings on a certain amount of shame that you almost can't recover from. And I just held that for so long. And I thought, I don't want to do this again. And, obviously time passes and things happen, and then you're faced with it again. But this time it's like the interest rates are really going down,
Right.
And so we're like, okay, well, we can't quite, afford a 15-year, but let's go ahead and go back to 30-year, and we will make up the payments. We'll make an extra couple of payments a year, and we'll shave off those years. But that doesn't happen. I'm telling you, with the best of intentions, we just don't follow through with, we're going to pay extra to the, mortgage every year. No, something always takes that extra money that we thought we would have to put towards mortgage. So until and unless you are really working with someone that holds you accountable to that, it doesn't work. And so we knew that when we were down to 25 years left, and we're like, we're still going to be 75 when we, have a house payment. And that's not how we wanted retirement to look. So so that I would say is, just that false sense of security and thinking things are going to look different than they really, really are. And so I would say, don't listen too much to what the lenders say. They're there to make a buck. They're there to make money as well. And they want to sell you kind of like a dream. Like, they're going to paint this scenario that you're going to have, more cash flow. You're going to be able to do things you've not been able to do. You can put more money in investments, whatever it is that you are aiming towards. They're going to create that picture and that story for you. And it's going to look enticing and it's going to look like it's going to be the answer to everything, but it's not. So I would say, do your due diligence. Now with the information we have on the internet, the competitiveness of lenders and, people buying for your business. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there to, get the best kind of deal you can if you're faced with something of this magnitude.
I think the not the converse of that, but the other side of the coin is they may be selling you on, hey, you're going to have more money. You're going to finally be able to take that trip to Disneyland. Or Disney World, depending on what side of the country you're on. You're finally going to be able to spend some more time with your kids at their sports. You don't have to work so many hours. But right now, we're technically in a recession. And what I'm starting to hear is those lenders saying, hey, if you refinance, you'll be able to make your utility payments on time.
Yes.
You'll be able to afford the grocery increases. And so they play with your emotions, like you said, both sides of the coin, depending on where you're at. Now, right now, the interest rates are back up to 6 to 9%. I actually heard a 9% rate the other day and almost had a heart attack. I know, it's crazy. So now it's definitely not the time to be refinancing unless you're in some horrific type of mortgage from the early 90s. But it is scary how they will talk you into it. Doesn't matter where you are in your life. They will talk you into that refinance.
Yeah. And I think for us, it was the desperation that I came off with. And they took advantage of that. I literally had a lender that said it was going to be X amount of dollars to refinance. And, they give you this good faith, estimate that they assume is going to kind of mimic or at least copy what it's really going to happen on paper. And that just didn't happen. That was one of the refinances. I don't even remember which one that was. I think it might have been the second or the fourth one. And I didn't know until after the fact how many thousands of dollars we lost because we weren't really paying attention. We were trusting. And that would be my number one advice. Don't trust anyone unless you have it in writing. And I will say this lender, after he left the company that he was at, came back and apologized to us. He was under such scrutiny at this company that he was with that was, taking advantage of people like me. And he came back and apologized and said, at any time, I want to make it right for you guys. We didn't end up refinancing with him later, but I just felt like, even he knew that there are people out there that are not on the up and up and that can take advantage of situations. Yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable and very scary. And eye-opening for sure. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So where are we now? We've got our 15-year mortgage and we're on track to finish in 4 years, you said?
Yeah, 4 years. We are at a very low interest rate. So we're like at 2.75%. So we're not in a big hurry to pay it off at this point. We have a lot of retirement catch up because I worked for a business or a school that did not have retirement benefits. So we're trying to catch up on retirement benefits. We hope to retire within the next 5 to 10 years. So, and by that time, our house will be paid off. So we have a plan. That's the thing, is that if you don't have a plan, life is going to play out before you, however it looks. And it's not going to be your plan. It's going to be whatever life unfolds. So make sure that you sit down with your spouse, that you have a 5-year plan, have a 10-year plan. People don't see the importance of having a long-term plan. But if you don't have something to look forward to or something that's going to give you that peace of mind, then you are just going to live day by day. And it's really not a way to live, because that's the way we were living, paycheck to paycheck, day by day. Okay, I hope we have money in our bank account today. And a lot of people are facing that, like you said, with inflation and food costs and putting food on the table for their families and getting gas in the car to get to work. Like, these are very big, valid concerns of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kacy, this has been, I think, so many people who know you and know of you are going to be really inspired by this because, we can continue to make mistakes and we can still come out on the other side and say, hey, we did it. We fixed it.
It's
Thank
never
you for sharing.
It's never too late.
No, it's never too late. Exactly. So thank you for your honesty today, Kacy. Everybody, you can find Kacy at kacysmith.com. All of her information is in the show notes. And I hope you'll join us next week for another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. Thanks again, Kacy.
Thanks.